Hi, I'm John Little, and this is the ShockCast, broadcasting on a somewhat cool and overcast Taipei evening on Saturday, October 20th, 2018. Before getting started, let me remind you to watch or listen to this week's YouTube playlist. You can find it in the playlist section of this YouTube channel, in the comments section below, or at the end of this video. Those are the best 10 videos of this past week, and I'm sure that you'll appreciate them as much as I did. Now, let's begin today's program. Destroyed by the well-crafted story. They lied to us, but they weren't just simple lies spoken against simple truths. They wrapped themselves in the flag and told us well-crafted stories that lured us away from our ideals, inch by precious inch. They told us about suffering and woe. They cried out against imagined evils. They enticed us with visions of peace and prosperity. They promoted themselves as honest, benevolent, and humane. And within their beautiful tales, they carefully insinuated their lies. With the power of words, they slipped past our defenses and destroyed us. They sapped our strength and stole our will, until there was no one left to guard the gates of freedom. For the past few years, a certain quote has nagged at me. I couldn't quite place it. When I searched for it, I couldn't find it because I didn't have the words quite right. There was something about night and guarding and singing songs of liberty, and a road, or something like that. But I never found, or never quite found, that quote. Then I watched this video that you will also see in the research section. It's called "We're Not Ready for the Attack That's Coming." It's a members only that was provided for the public of a right angle from Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and Scott Ott. And Bill started out by describing how Britain fortified Singapore so that she could not be conquered by the Japanese Navy. So she wasn't. Which is why she was conquered by the Japanese army that came through the jungle on bicycles. And Bill said that America is Singapore. Why? Because we are so fortified against the enemy invading our homes and taking our liberty by force that we forgot that there are other ways that they could steal our freedom. And he pointed to what the Democrats did to Judge and now Justice Brett Kavanaugh. They didn't steal our freedom with guns. They stole it with stories. Well-crafted, precisely engineered stories. And that made me think of that quote that I was searching for. So, I determined that this time I would find it. So I searched again. This time for singing songs of freedom instead of liberty. Nope, didn't see it. Then I searched for singing songs. Too many search results. Then I did this search. Singing songs night. Nope, too many results. Okay, how about this? Singing songs night freedom. Scroll down. Bingo! I found it. And I had the words wrong. It wasn't singing songs of liberty or singing songs of freedom. It was singing songs to freedom. What a difference a two makes. So here's the quote. Quote, "There are those who still think they are holding the pass against a revolution that may be coming up the road. But they are gazing in the wrong direction. The revolution is behind them. It went by in the night of depression, singing songs to freedom." Close quote. That is the first paragraph of an article called "The Revolution Was." And it was a monograph, aka article, written in 1938 by Garrett. But I didn't read that paragraph in the article. I saw it in a book. And not just any book, this book, People's Pottage. That book was published in 1958 by Garrett and contained 3 of his articles, with "The Revolution Was" the first of those 3. And I think that I read that book just a little over 20 years after it was published. I was just a teenager, so I didn't really grasp the entirety and significance of what Garrett said. Now that I'm in my 50s, I get it. In fact, it wouldn't be hard to rewrite that article and describe each president of the United States as he lied his way into power and trampled the U.S. Constitution. But one who did it best, the real big one, was old FDR. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, lied to us. He said one thing that we wanted to hear and then did the exact opposite once he got into power. And all throughout his reign, he told one well-crafted story after another and captured our freedoms. And we let him do it. His uncle, Theodore Teddy Roosevelt, helped lay the groundwork with his left-wing progressive policies and his ushering in of Woodrow Wilson by splitting the Republican Party vote. Teddy must have been a big influence on young FDR, and when FDR walked into the White House, the foundations led by Teddy and Woodrow were ready for Franklin to build upon. And they all of them used well-crafted stories to pull us in and capture America. The left is still using the artfully created story to pull us in this way or that way. They are still taking what remains of our freedom and individuality by carefully creating each story to do more and more damage. It's a kind of death by 1,000 cuts. The left's fellow travelers in the media readily and enthusiastically pass on the carefully crafted stories, giving them the gloss of truth. These lies from the pits of hell have done more damage than any military could do, because they destroyed us from within. Oh, and you need to read that article, The Revolution Was. Yes, 1938 was 80 years ago, but we find ourselves on the doorstep of similar events. We are about to suffer an economic catastrophe even worse than the Great Depression that allowed FDR to sneak in and take power. And you can expect the next president, or even Donald Trump, to follow the same outline provided in that article. Read the article for yourself. The language is 1930s American, so it can be a little tough to read in certain places, but it shows us where the future lies. You might even want to download that free PDF copy of the book, People's Pottage. In fact, let me share some quotes to lure you into reading that article, and even the book. In fact, I'll recite basically a bunch of paragraphs that I've taken out from the first half of the article, but they're not all in the order, or should I say, they're not all sequential from within the article. Okay, so starting off, it took off from a revolutionary base. I'm quoting here. The design was European, regarded from the point of view of revolutionary technique. It made perfect sense. Its meaning was revolutionary, and it had no other. For what it meant to do, it was from the beginning consistent in principle, resourceful, intelligent, masterly in workmanship, and it made not one mistake. The end held constantly in view was power. In the naive American mind, the word revolution had never grown up. The meaning of it had not changed since horse and buggy days, when Oliver Wendell Holmes said, "Revolutions are not made by men in spectacles." It called up scenes from Carlyle and Victor Hugo. Or it meant killing the Tsar with a bomb, as he may have deserved for oppressing his people. Definitely it meant the overthrow of government by force, and nothing like that could happen here. We had passed a law against it. Revolution in the modern case is no longer an uncouth business. The ancient demagogic art, like every other art, has, as we say, advanced. It has become, in fact, a science, the science of political dynamics. And your scientific revolutionary in spectacles regards force in a cold, impartial manner. It may or may not be necessary. If not, so much the better. To employ it wantonly or with the love of it when it is not necessary is vulgar, unintelligent, and wasteful. Destruction is not the aim. The more you destroy, the less there is to take over. Always, the single end in view is a transfer of power. The scientific study of revolution included, of course, analysis of opportunity. First and always, the master of revolutionary technique is an opportunist. He must know opportunity when he sees it in the becoming. He must know how to stalk it, how to let it ripen, how to adapt his means to the realities. The basic ingredients of opportunity are few. Nearly always it is how they are mixed that matters. But the one indispensable ingredient is economic distress. And if there is enough of that, the mixture will take care of itself. And let me stress, I close quote here, and let me stress the need for economic distress. So many people think that the Antichrist will rise just out of nowhere. Just as life goes on, he will just pop up and take over. No. It will require great distress. And I believe that a big part of that great distress is economic distress. And then Garrett lays out the process, one that should be familiar to you. Quote, they set themselves down in sequence as follows. The first, naturally, would be capture the seat of government. The second would be to seize economic power. The third would be to mobilize by propaganda the forces of hatred. The fourth would be to reconcile and then attach to the revolution the two great classes whose adherence is indispensable, but whose interests are economically antagonistic, namely the industrial wage earners and the farmers, called in Europe workers and peasants. The fifth would be to do with business, or what to do with business, whether to liquidate or shackle it. The sixth, in Burckhardt's devastating phrase, would be the domestication of individuality, by any means that would make the individual more dependent upon government. The seventh would be the systematic reduction of all forms of rival authority. The eighth would be to sustain popular faith in an unlimited public debt. For if that faith should break, the government would be unable to borrow. The government would be unable to borrow if that faith should be broken. If it could not borrow, it could not spend, and the revolution must be able to borrow and spend the wealth of the rich, or else it will be bankrupt. The ninth would be to make the government itself the great capitalist and enterpriser, so that unlimited power and initiative would pass from the hands of private enterprise to the all-powerful state. Each one of these problems would have two sides, one the obverse and one the reverse, like a coin. One side only would represent the revolutionary intention. The other side, in each case, would represent recovery. And that was the side the New Deal constantly held up to view. Nearly everything it did was in the name of recovery. But in no case was it true. Close quote. Okay, I've probably quoted too much of that article, but I hope that helps you see how closely this resembles where we are now. FDR did not complete his revolution, praise God. But he accomplished so much of it that we find ourselves unable to roll back what that foul fiend from hell accomplished. And I believe that the coming greatest depression will finish the job. Will you be ready for this? Now, a note about last week's article, speaking about the S-300, that S-300 anti-aircraft system that was delivered to Syria. Chris wrote to update us on the shipment of the S-300 anti-aircraft missile system to Syria. I had said that it was Russia's most recent version of that system, the S-300V4, and several authoritative reports at that time indicated that it was that version. It now appears that it was a lesser version, or maybe not. We're not sure. There's an interesting article laying out some interesting observations, and it's titled Moscow's S-300 Double Bluff in Syria. I've actually put a link to it in the comments section below. Russia also might not have delivered 24 launchers to Syria as it said that it had, so it sounds like a game is being played. figuring out that game is going to be hard, even dangerous. As a part of his comment, Chris mentioned a word, maskirovka, which is Russian for disguise, but also the word used to describe Russian military deception. It even has its own Wikipedia page. Over the coming weeks and months, I think that we're going to find out what Russia was up to in that not delivery of the S-300. By then, it will probably be too late for any of us to do anything about it. Thanks, Chris. Now, we get to what I consider to be the most important part of the ShockCast, the news and analysis from this past week. But before going on, take a moment to click the subscribe button below and hit that bell to be notified when the next ShockCast happens. Those of you listening via MP3, make sure that you are subscribed to the Shock Letter at theshockletter.com. And there's an important reason to be subscribed to the Shock Letter, since I usually do not have the time on the ShockCast to talk about more than just a quarter or a tenth of the news that I analyze at Omega Shock and the Shock Letter. So subscribe to the Shock Letter and get all the news and links that I analyze for free. In fact, everyone should sign up for the Shock Letter. Subscribing and unsubscribing is simple and easy. There's no way that I would ever share the list with anyone. Period. I'm not in this for the money and never will be. Okay, first up is U.S. childbirth. Almost half of U.S. births happen outside marriage, signaling cultural shift. As an American, born to a family that helped found the United States, we fought in the Revolution. My family paid its price in blood, on every battlefield, in every war, and we fought for an ideal called America. Truth, honesty, opportunity, sacrifice, integrity, laying a foundation for future generations. And now, I find that all of this was created so that we could churn out children born out of wedlock. 40% of all babies today in America are persons of uncertain parentage. That is my euphemism for the word bastard, and I refrain from using the term bastard, even though it is the most accurate word for those born to mothers who are not married. Please understand that the word bastard wasn't just a derisive term for those born to women who were having sex outside of marriage. In fact, we had identify someone as a bastard because they behave like bastards. Children learn honor, respect, and integrity from their fathers. Yes, there are mothers who often teach this, but they are not the best teachers for this vital part of character. Men understand these things far more naturally. This is why, without fatherhood, a nation cannot stand. Yes, we love our mothers, even if they are awful to us. Mothers have their own place in our lives, and they can build as well as destroy. A good mother is priceless. And I know this from my own efforts to help those whose mothers destroyed them. When the family is destroyed, the nation falls. Think about that when you see headlines like the one that we are looking at here. Think also about the fact that more than half of all marriages will end in divorce. This means that many of the kids born into households with fathers will lose those fathers. Hopefully, the reality of all of that will sink in and help you realize that all the violence, dishonesty, and corruption has its roots in part due to the lack of fatherhood. America is a nation without a father. And we even have a couple examples. The first one is armed looters target homes devastated by Hurricane Michael in Florida. And here we go with an example of what I'm talking about. In Japan, after the big tsunami not that many years ago, you didn't have looting. Here in Taiwan, after a typhoon as big as Michael, which hits about once every 2 years, we don't worry about looters. And there are still places in both Taiwan and Japan where people have never locked their doors and don't know where their keys are if they wanted to lock their doors. Unfortunately, that has been changing far too quickly here in Taiwan and in Japan. But it's still not as bad, not nearly as bad as America. Now, we have this. It's China trying to rewrite the Bible, force churches to sing communist anthems. Mrs. Little told me something on Monday that made me do a search for the information in English. What her source told her was unbelievable, but I'm afraid that my own check and this link told me that it was horrifyingly true. Here's the quote of what I found from this article. Quote, "One way in which they plan to sinicize or Chinify, if you want to say, Christianity," Fu said, "is by retranslating the Old Testament and providing new commentary to the New Testament to make socialist ideals and Chinese culture seem more divine." The plan made it clear that sinicization of Christianity means to change Christianity in China into Chinese Christianity, he explained. The plan emphasized that the heart and soul of Christianity's sinicization is to sinicize the Christian theology, and even proposing to retranslate the Bible or rewrite biblical commentaries. According to its latest outline, Fu said, a retranslation would be a summary of the Old Testament with some Buddhist scripture and Confucian teachings and new commentary for the New Testament. There are outlines that the new Bible should not look westernized and should look Chinese and reflect Chinese ethics of Confucianism and socialism, Fu told the Christian Post after the hearing. The Old Testament will be messed up. The New Testament will have new commentaries to interpret it. Fu added that the 5-year plan advocates for incorporating the Chinese elements into church worship services and hymns and songs, clergy attire, and the architectural style of church buildings. This includes editing and publishing worship songs with Chinese characteristics and promoting the sinicization of worship music, using uniquely Chinese art forms such as Chinese painting, calligraphy, inscription, and paper cutting to express the Christian faith, he said. It's also encouraging churches to blend in style with Chinese architecture to local architectural style. Close quote. It bothers me that this quote, what I just read to you, was buried in the middle of the article. This should be right at the top, the very first line. Yes, I know that it was in the title, but any real Christian would be so outraged by this that it would be front and center, or it should be. Changing the Bible? Also, Mrs. Little knows the person being quoted here, Bob Fu, who said all this. Unfortunately, we Christians have already allowed foul and evil people to retranslate the Bible, and too few Christians are outraged by the retranslating of the Bible. No good man ever changes the meaning of a word to fit his own ideas. Yet even the King James Version did this. And no, I'm not kidding. It makes me furious every time I run into these deliberate mistakes. They knew what they were doing and did it anyway. One example was to not translate baptizo and anglicize the Greek word to baptize. Why? Because during the time of King James, the Anglicans sprinkled and knew that they would be in trouble if they correctly translated the word into immerse, submerge, dip, or dunk. And yes, there are other errors, but that one should be obvious to anyone and everyone. A more recent effort was to create this idea that there would be a pre-tribulation rapture. It is nowhere in the Bible, but people inserted it and taught it in their seminaries. And now it is widespread, almost everywhere. And most of those who don't believe that lie believe another lie, that we have replaced the children of Jacob, claiming that all the promises to the physical children of Israel are for us and us alone, that the children of Jacob will never again receive the eternal promises given to them. Such a vile and evil replacement theology is just as bad as any other, in fact, it's probably worse than most of the other lies that people are teaching and claiming that it's Christianity. All of that should tell you that the Chinese government will get away with this. For some Christians in China, and hopefully most Christians will reject these things and house churches in China have been publicly condemning the move by the Chinese government. I say all of this for two reasons. Pray for our Chinese brothers and sisters. This is only the beginning of the persecution that they are about to suffer. It will be a truly awful thing that is going to happen to them, and there will be nothing for them to do except endure. This persecution is coming for us. As I have said before, the Antichrist system is being designed, built, and perfected in China. What is happening in China will be our future. We will suffer as they are going to suffer, and I'm afraid that many of us deserve the suffering that we will need to endure. We did this to ourselves by adding our own corruption to the Bible. We built seminaries and staffed them with corrupt teachers. We allowed corrupt commenters to write commentaries. We allowed preachers to preach ideas that were not in the Bible. We did all these things and laid the groundwork for our own destruction and persecution. We dared to do this, and too few of us objected to it. How the Bible is translated matters deeply. It matters that the Bible was deliberately mistranslated. It matters, but we don't seem to care. God help us all. The next one is very much in the same line. It's Oprah's New Age Christianity Exposed, Dangerous Heresy, and it's a YouTube video. Carl shared this with me via email, and it was horribly painful to watch. And no, this is not a bad video. It's excellent. The painful part is to listen to all these sincere people give sincere heresy that will send you to everlasting torment should you believe it. Stephen Bankars exposes the evil of this heresy and demonstrates the many facets of it. And if you believe any one part of this, or any one part of this heresy, what we would call damnable heresy, you will not go to heaven. Those of you who have been around a while, this will not be news to you. We've seen this before, and we've seen this heresy being described by God in the Bible. It is not unique. It is depressingly normal and familiar. Why must we always do this? Why must we be so stupid as to redefine God in our own foolish and sinful image? And yes, we Christians do this all the time by claiming God wouldn't do this or that, when the Bible clearly states that He has done these things and will do them. At our best, we are all fools, all of us, myself included. Remember that Jesus called us sheep, and it wasn't because we were so intelligent, but He loves us anyway. May God preserve us from this foul and evil heresy described in this video. And thank you for sharing this with me, Carl. And thank you, Stephen Bankars, for making this video. This was a right time for it. This was a good time for it. Then there's this one. It's He's One of Us, the undying bond between the Bible Belt and Trump, the New York Times. And yes, I know it's the New York Times, but I think it's accurate and depressing. Let me make something clear. Very, very clear. Donald Trump is not a Christian. Is that clear enough? I hope it is, because he might be a better president than anyone else since Reagan. He might even be better than Reagan was, since he did the one thing that Reagan refused to do, move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. But does that make him good? Does that make him Christian? Let me clue you in on a little secret. Good men rarely become billionaires. I know one, personally, who is a billionaire and a good man, so I'm willing to admit that there might be others. Oh, and here's another little secret. Good politicians are just as rare as good billionaires. If you aren't suspicious of Donald Trump, you are very, very foolish. A wise man is always cynical about people with wealth or power. Always. Again, Donald Trump is not a Christian. If you disagree, then I doubt that you know what a Christian is. I'm not saying you're not saved, but seriously, Donald Trump is a Christian? In fact, now that I think about it, I find it hard to believe that you can be a Christian and be so foolish as to believe that Donald Trump is a Christian. Yeah, I know it's possible. And so I'm not making this a claim for salvation or faith. But, man, it's really unfortunate and unwise if anyone believes that he is a Christian, that Donald Trump is a Christian. So please, stop it with the Donald is a Christian stuff. He isn't. End of story. But, of course, we have examples. Number one is U.S. budget deficit expands to $779 billion in fiscal 2008 as spending surges. I'm sorry, but if you think that Donald Trump is doing a great job, think again. Of course, he's not the one who sets the spending. That'd be Congress. But you don't hear the Donald criticizing the amount of money that Congress is spending. This is a horrendous nightmare. It's evil. It's theft of the future, and we Americans are too stupid and greedy to stop it. Remember that both the House and Senate are in Republican hands. I'm sorry, I don't care who wins. With this kind of corruption, both sides are evil. And then we have example number 2. Trump and Pompeo defend Saudi rulers as White House strategy shifts in Khashoggi case, Los Angeles Times. Yep. Not a surprise. Did you honestly think that Donald Trump would attack the Saudis and demand justice? Trump is not a Christian. If Trump was a Christian, he would not lie about the Saudis. Okay? He would not lie. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Now, I don't watch movies, but the one I'm going to talk about is probably one that you need to watch. And this entry, it is a review of this movie. It's Gosnell, A Story Media Won't Tell, a movie everyone must see by Ben Davies on YouTube. Okay, this looks like a life-changing movie. This is a review by a Christian who is in the movie industry, although I'm not sure where he is in that industry. But this really sounds like something that you should watch, and something that all your neighbors, friends, and family should watch. And the best part? The mainstream media do not want you to watch it. And this reviewer says that it's one of the best low-budget movies that he's ever seen. So watch it and tell me what you think. And if I get a chance to, I'll watch it too. Of course, I don't watch movies, and I'm not sure that it'll make it to Taiwan. But if it does get to Taiwan, the Taiwanese need to watch it. So we'll see. Okay, and this next one really got me upset. I'm titling this, in fact, I made it a kind of a section in the article for Friday. Facebook destroys business of wounded veteran. The horrifically wounded in Iraq veteran, Brian Kolfage, should not be alive. But he survived and dedicated his life to helping veterans. He's missing both legs and his right arm, but he managed to start a business that gives 10% of its profits to veterans and veteran families. He based his business on Facebook, selling coffee. He also took over a Facebook page called Right Wing News. You can find the links to those pages actually below. Of course, those links won't work because Facebook took them down, destroying his business and his effort to inform us, or inform all of us, about the truth. This is a foul and evil thing, and I have collected the details about this case below. It's a sign of the evil in our midst, so you need to pay attention. This isn't just about Brian Kolfage. It's about us. Now, what got me started was this video called Facebook Has Crossed the Line. It's a Mark Dice video, and it's horrifying. Facebook destroyed the business of a wounded veteran who spent $300,000 on Facebook ads to promote his business. And then they just tossed his business into the garbage. And this guy really isn't all that right-wing. The callous and evil willingness to destroy the lives of others is the hallmark of the left. America has bought the leftist story. It's now time to share true stories about those that the left are persecuting and deeply harming, like this guy. And then Brian Kolfage responded in an article that he wrote. Right-wing news responds to Facebook purge with explosive facts. The man so deeply harmed by Facebook and their foul attacks is named Brian, and he has written this letter explaining what happened. This man is a hero who is treated like dirt. He's been harassed and vilified by Facebook employees. Facebook employees have sabotaged his account and Facebook page. It's an outrage that Facebook would seek to destroy the life of a man who gave so much for his country. And this guy isn't the classic conservative. He has supported Democrats, not just Republicans. If anyone should have been given a break, Facebook should have given this man a break. A man that has paid so much money to Facebook for advertisements that they encouraged him to buy. Facebook should be ashamed of themselves for their foul and evil actions. May the Lord give them no rest until they fix what they have broken. Then I went looking for Brian's personal website, and he's listed himself, and his website talks about himself being a motivational veteran speaker. And his story about the price that he paid, and it's an example of an honor that he deserves. I might disagree with the wars that America fights in, but heroes like this deserve better than what he received. And then there's a description about his business. And Brian pretty much did all of this business. It took on Facebook, it took some real digging to find the regular web page. I can hardly believe that Facebook would do such a thing after accepting his money for ads. Will they even give him his money back? Facebook is run by scum. I don't like using that word, but when people openly, blatantly, with malice aforethought, destroy a man's life because they don't like what he says, they deserve the title of scum. They've gone so far beyond dirtbags, right into scum. Dirty, filthy, lying scum. Okay, I even looked at his the website, because he did all of his business on Facebook, but he also created a website called Military Grade Coffee, and I believe it's militarygradecoffee.com. And this is the company, it's the company website, and they give, and on the website you'll see that they give 10% of their profits to veterans and veteran families, which is really awesome. But as good as the web page is, it's just a simple page. You can tell by the link title. It's all in lowercase, no frills, no description. This guy's business was literally Facebook and Facebook only. And unfortunately, I can't even compare the two because they took down his page and tried to destroy it. Well, moving on, and hopefully Brian will be able to rebuild his business and even larger than before. But this is an outrage that it'll take a long time for me to get over it. The next one is Flash. Outrageous new TV dating shows cut straight to chase. France 24. This is sick. Here's a quote that says everything that you really didn't want to know. Quote, "Making Love," the name of the show, has jaws dropping at MIPCOM, the world's biggest TV market in Cannes, by having contestants have sex first before deciding if they like each other. Its French producers, We Make, said it has brought together scientifically matched singles to ask the essential question, could making love make you fall in love? And by the way, this is not a French show because all the contestants are British. They billed the show, which is being sold at MIPCOM, as a groundbreaking experiment into how humans fall in love. Behind the bedroom door, cameras have captured the new couple's every move, every awkward moment, the producer said before pulling away at the last minute, only to reappear in post-coital glow or gloom. Contestants can then hurry into the bathroom to debrief the audience on just how their new partner performed. Close quote. This is so revolting. I'm sorry, but claiming that there's some science involved is just a lie. They aren't doing this for science. They're doing this because our society wants sex and lots of it. We are ripe for being completely and utterly destroyed. This next one's a trailer for a movie called Clergy, premiering in Bio Brandis on the 12th of October, which means it's already been playing in that movie theater. But Chris from Poland, and this is a Polish movie, shared this link in the comments section, and he said this: 3 weeks ago in Poland, or I should say, quote, 3 weeks ago in Poland, a new movie, I saw it, entered the theaters, called Clergy. All characters are Catholic priests, ranging from small village church to the top of the hierarchy. It became a blockbuster with over 1 million audience viewers during the first weekend. Now it's on the way to break all-time Polish audience record set by an old epic historical movie in 1974. Its impact is off the scale. The movie is fictional, but I recommend the trailer for a reason. What you will see in the movie trailer is every second of it happened in the real world somewhere in Poland. For example, people already discovered that the key evil character, an archbishop, what he says in the movie are in fact the exact citations from 4 real Polish bishops. 80% of what he speaks, it goes that far, is really what they said. And so goes the rest. Take a look. Make no mistake, this is not a fiction or black comedy of some kind. This is extremely sad and real. Close quote. After sharing the link, Chris went on to write, you may have thought about the brave director of this movie who dared to expose the truth and made it so clear, or should say, made it to clear the swamp of the Roman Catholic Church. I saw multiple interviews with him, and it's not the case that he's so brave and so wonderful. I'm sorry, I'm adding a little bit there because, well, Chris is Polish. He is offended by a cross in public places, oppressed when his children see other children praying, etc. When you see the trailer, you may also ask, is it necessary to mock the Last Supper to expose the sins of the Roman Catholic Church? Close quote. By the way, Chris's English is exceptional. I praise anybody whose second language is that good. Now back to me. When Chris shared that link, I watched it, and I can tell you that the production values are impressive, and it's full of dark comedy and bitterness. And I can also see the anti-Christian signature of those who made it. It certainly makes sense that the producers and director of this film were not just anti-Catholic, but anti-Christ. Unfortunately, the foul behavior of the Roman Catholic Church has given fuel to the hellish fiends who wish to blacken the name of Christ by claiming to be Christian. By claiming to be Christian, the RCC, the Roman Catholic Church, does more damage to Christians than any Satanist could ever do. Therefore, I say that the Roman Catholic Church has fulfilled its duty to the devil by profaning the name of Christ. That was its job, and it has done its job well. Very few minions of Satan have been as thorough or as efficient as the Roman Catholic Church. By the way, after learning that the Vatican wants us to drop the Roman from Roman Catholic Church, I have been careful to always include Rome, or Roman, in their name. They want to think of their church as Catholic, i.e. universal. It isn't, and I shall never give them that honor. The Roman Catholic Church has the blood of millions upon millions of true Christians on its hands, along with many millions who are not. It is the blackest of dark comedies that the Roman Catholic Church has been a tool in the hands of atheists to attack our Lord and Savior. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. It's a snapshot of our world that we all needed to see. Then there's this one from Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog. Entire federal budget now national security secret. Dr. Mark Skidmore. Someone or someones have stolen and spent an additional $21 trillion over and above the national debt, and the government will not talk about where that money went. Here's the first paragraph in the write-up from USAWatchdog.com. Quote, Michigan State economics professor Mark Skidmore made a stunning discovery late last year. Using publicly available government accounting reports, he revealed there was $21 trillion in what he calls missing money from the Department of Defense and Housing and Urban Development. Two agencies, not just one. The data he used has been scrubbed. All accounting records are heavily redacted, and now the federal government has declared that its accounting falls under national security. Dr. Skidmore can no longer get the government to respond. Dr. Skidmore explains, at this point, they are no longer responding to any of my inquiries. They are not just answering. They're just not answering. And that is very astounding. And you can go on and look at the report yourself and see all of it blacked out. I actually lost sleep over that. That really bothered me. Now they are not even using standard accounting financial reporting rules. They're just moving things around and not telling anybody. So, first, all of this stuff is hidden because it is a national security issue. And now they're just changing the accounting standards. I would ask, is that constitutional? I don't think so. Does it match any of our financial reporting laws? I don't think so. I'm not sure what gives the government the authority to make that decision, and yet it's happening. Close quote. I find it interesting. The U.S. government will not talk about the missing money. Did you get that? They won't talk about it. It's a national security secret. Why? I know that lots of people are making fanciful claims about where this money went, but I'm sorry to tell you that fantasies about secret projects are just that, fantasies. The money was stolen, period. Don't tell me that there's a secret space force or that we have a secret weapons project or that the money was stolen and spent over a period. But the money was stolen and spent over a period of decades. This is utterly and completely revolting. The Republic has fallen. And here is our last entry. Tommy Robinson is back on trial Tuesday. What the UK did to Tommy Robinson is sick and twisted. He did not break the law in any way, and his summary imprisonment is a vile and evil act of a psychopathic judge and a psychopathic government. Recently, after 2 horrific months in prison, where he suffered brutal treatment, Tommy was released. We praised God and thought that the worst was over, but such was not to be. They are now hauling him back in front of a judge, attempting to put him back in prison to finish the job. They want him dead. Remember, they put Tommy in a prison that was with the most violent Muslim gangs. They put him in a prison where the most violent offenders were. They deliberately put him in a place where he was guaranteed to be killed, and they are attempting to do it again. If they are successful, Tommy will probably be murdered in jail, and that murder will be on the hands of the British government. More importantly, it's a symbol and a symptom of what is happening, first in the UK and then elsewhere. Welcome to the pathological, psychopathic, diabolical Islamization of your country, wherever you are. And I'm afraid that we are all Tommy Robinson. Well, what got me started in this is Tommy Robinson trial confirmed for October 23rd, which is Tuesday, by Ezra Levant. So, his trial is on Tuesday. Pray that he is acquitted. Pray that the government of Britain is chastised for the evil that they have done. In this vein, I recently received an email from Jay, a longtime reader. He'd seen something by Richie Allen, and he wanted my view, and here's what I said. Hi, Jay. Richie Allen is a lying liar and an apologist for Islam and Muslims. He's also an anti-Semite of the worst kind, by sounding reasonable when he is nothing of the kind. This was Character Assassination, the show that Richie Allen gave. Richie makes insinuations without facts. The only facts that he offers is that Tommy Robinson may or may not have been caught kicking his girlfriend and then attacking the police officer that intervened. But the facts that Richie tries to get you to swallow afterwards are lies. Claiming that Tommy had never done any investigative work ever. Claiming that really? And I had to stop that video that was shared with me at that point. There's a reason why I never share anything from the Richie Allen show. It's because Richie Allen lies all the time, constantly. The truth is not important to Richie Allen. Attacking Jews are more important to him. Attacking Israel is more important to him. And there's no lie too big in an attempt to make that attack or each attack successful. And I know these things from personal observation. This isn't conjecture on my part. Anyway, thanks for sharing that with me, Jay. Yours in Christ, John Little, Omega Shock. Many of you will be hearing more attacks on Tommy's character. I don't know if he's guilty of any of those accusations, and yes, I know that Tommy isn't his real name. Remember that Tommy Robinson isn't the issue here. Even his character is not the issue, and I don't believe the accusations against him. But even if I did, it would not change my point. This is about Great Britain, their future, and our future. Even though I'm not British, what happens to Tommy on Tuesday will still have an effect on you and me. Well, that's it for this week's ShockCast. I truly hope that you'll be ready for what is coming. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Proverbs 22:3. If you find a flaw in my reasoning, have a question, or wish to add your own viewpoint, leave a comment on Omega Shock on the website or in the comment section below. Omega Shock readers and ShockCast listeners leave awesome comments, and I value each and every one of them. Again, make sure that you are subscribed to the Shock Letter at theshockletter.com. In fact, everyone should sign up for the Shock Letter. It's free. Subscribing and unsubscribing is easy, and there's no way that I would ever share the list with anyone. Period. You have my promise on that. For those of you on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. All of that helps you and me get the message out. And as this video ends, you'll see links appear in boxes within this video. Those links will take you to other ShockCasts, a link to subscribe to the ShockCast, as well as a link to the playlist of the important videos of this past week. And you will see the links to that playlist in the comment section below. So you have a couple of options here. So now, allow me to close with this blessing from Numbers 6:24-26. Yevirechecha Yehovah yeshmerecha. Ya'er Yehovah panav elecha vichuneka. Yisa Yehovah panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Numbers 6:24-26. May your pastor on Sunday give you the words that you need to continue walking the path that God calls for you to follow. And Lord willing, I will see all of you next week.